Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story. Yesterday, the United States got a new president. Donald Trump took oath as the 47th president of America. He made a comeback to the White House after leaving it 4 years ago. His inauguration ceremony that took place in the capital city of Washington, D.C., was closely watched by millions of people across the world. In what was arguably the most unusual inauguration in American history, President Donald Trump pledged that the golden age for the country had just begun. He promised to make America great again, while he also used his inauguration address to lay out a series of executive actions that his administration would undertake, especially on immigration, energy, and trade. However, what was missing in his nearly 30-minute-long inauguration address was the mention of Africa, which happened to be mentioned a total of 0 times. Now, President Trump spoke about America. He also spoke about Panama, Mexico, China, and the BRICS bloc. He even addressed the chaos and destruction left by the previous administration. But he failed to mention even a single African nation in his inauguration address.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
Even at his inauguration ceremony, while there were a slew of foreign leaders ranging from India to Italy who had been invited to attend his swearing-in, there was not a single African leader on the guest list. And post his swearing-in ceremony, only Egypt and South African presidents congratulated Trump on his inauguration. This was in contrast to November of 2024, when several African leaders, including Kenya and Nigeria, had congratulated Trump on his victory. Now, Africa has generally been low on the priority list for the United States for years. Last year, former President Joe Biden had made a trip to Angola to show that the U.S. was shifting its perspective and attention to Africa. Still, he was not successful. Russia and China have both made significant inroads into the continent, and U.S. allies, including France, have lost their influence in the region. Trump, on the other hand, had also not done much for Africa in his first term. He also does not share close camaraderie with any African leader. During his first term, he never set foot in Africa or held a summit with African leaders. He is known to have made some derogatory and racist remarks toward African countries. He withdrew American soldiers from Somalia fighting terror group Al-Shabaab, a decision that was later reversed by the Biden administration. He also escalated Egypt-Ethiopia tensions as he commented that Egypt should blow up an Ethiopian dam on the Nile River, which has been the center of a dispute between the two African nations. But his first term also saw some positives. It saw the birth of initiatives such as Prosper Africa, aimed at boosting U.S.-Africa economic engagement. Then, in a key development, Trump recognized Morocco's sovereignty over the territory of Western Sahara in exchange for its normalization of ties with Israel. Despite all of it, Trump turned out to be a president with the least engagements with Africa. However, experts believe that Trump may not be able to neglect Africa like he did during his previous term. Estimated at over 1 billion people, Africa's population is growing fast and expected to reach 2.5 billion by 2050. It is emerging as a big market that is playing an important role in the global economy. Secondly, China and Russia's increasing influence, especially in businesses and military partnerships, might interest Trump in engaging more with Africa. He might want to counter both China and Russia in the continent. But with no mention of Africa in his inauguration speech, concerns are growing whether Trump's second term will be just the same as his first tenure. Now, to discuss more on this, we have with us Khani Magubane, a political analyst who is joining us live from Johannesburg, South Africa. Thank you for being with us, Kani.
A very good evening to you and your viewers.
Now, Kani, how significant is it that President Trump's inauguration speech did not mention Africa? And what message might this send to African leaders and nations about his administration's priorities?
Understand what the purpose was. If you listen very carefully, he didn't mention Africa, he didn't mention Europe, he didn't mention India, he didn't mention Asia. So he stayed away from foreign policy and diplomatic relationships that America currently has with different countries in the world. This speech was about making America great again. If we listen to the speech, Donald Trump spent a significant amount of time talking about what had gone wrong under the Democrats. He spoke about what he called a catalog of catastrophic events overseas. He spoke about the previous administration's ability to properly handle domestic issues, pointing to weather-related events like the fires, like the floods that have happened in North Carolina, and what many have termed as the government's inadequate response to all of that. He said that America will be the envy of the world again. America is going into its golden era. He spoke about what his administration is going to do, starting with these 200 executive orders that he spoke at length about. So this speech was really about taking the American citizens back into his confidence, back into the confidence of believing that America will once again be, the free world and the leader of the free world. But of course, we have to ask ourselves, why was it necessary for Donald Trump to make such a speech? Well, as far as the world's relations with the U.S. are concerned, the U.S., is not really on good terms with quite a significant amount of countries. And as you've mentioned in your intro, only South Africa and Egypt from the continent of Africa wished him well, which just goes to show that America feels that it's in a bit of a vulnerable position where it's weakened its position under the Democrats. Donald Trump, is definitely peddling the narrative that under his administration, America will rise again. And of course, with the threat of BRICS, that is a very serious, journey that he wants to go on, because if, the BRICS economic bloc were to adopt the BRICS currency, as we saw the Russian President Vladimir Putin taking a jab at the U.S. when he waved that sample around. It certainly sent fears to the U.S. government that unless it entrenches its position again as the leader of the free world, they may lose it.
Kani, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa. As always, great to speak with you.
Thank you so much.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.